Hello guys, welcome to the first newspaper video on my YouTube channel Anonymous UPSC Trailblazer. Now I'll be telling you how I'll go about the newspaper reading. So first of all, I'll start with the Hindu newspaper. So my method of reading is this. First I'll be reading the front page, second the editorial section, third the opinion, fourth science, and then I will go about the rest of the newspaper. I believe that when I follow this sequence, my newspaper timing, the time taken by me to read the newspaper is significantly reduced. Then I also refer to the Indian Express only for the explain portion, and also if I find something which is given extra, like I just give a glance to the newspaper. I don't read the entire newspaper, I just give a glance if something that has been missed by the Hindu newspaper or something which I find important. So I don't read word by word the Indian Express. And the Hindu newspaper, I'm not going to be reading like word by word, but we will be knowing the gist of the newspaper, because I think the newspaper reading that I do is only to make me aware about what's happening around, but the major learning that has to be done, that I will use the monthly compilations that are given. But I think it will take significant amount. I think 1 to 1.5 hour will be taken at least to finish newspaper reading in this way. So let's begin. So first I am starting with the Hindu newspaper. So here it's given an advertisement by the IDFC First Bank. So let me tell you before I begin the video that it's been a while since I've read a newspaper properly, so I'm not quite aware about what's happening in India or in the world. So it'll be my first reading after a long time. So a strong foundation for world class bank. So we'll taking the general idea about what does a bank offer. So it's a universal bank, customer friendly, very important for a bank to be, a positive work culture. So the main points are highlighted. Corporate governance, we can use such words if any question comes regarding banking. So corporate governance, granular deposits, no need to go in the depth, we'll just be looking at the terms. Diversified loan, high quality assets, ESG commitment, strong profitability, temporary technology. So here I think let me choose. Yeah, so I think positive culture, customer friendly, and you should often diversified loans. You should be using the contemporary technology or the latest technology, and then profit should also be good and asset quality should be high. I think this one will be to suffice. Then there is some advertisement, so I'll be using red pen to cancel the stuff which we are not supposed to read. So this is the front page. It is telling about 1 killed, 3 injured in gunfights in Manipur. So Manipur is in the eastern part of India. So there were gunfights and people were killed and injured. So we'll be just reading this. Clash along the boundary between Kangpokpi and Imphal West District comes less than a day after attack on CRPF camp in the state. Police say miscreant from both sides exchanged fire. So I'll be searching down the meaning of miscreants. It means a person without moral scalps, or let me see somewhere else. miscreants, meaning a person who has done something wrong or unlawful. I'll be writing down the meaning as well. Okay, so from this newspaper clipping we come to know that before the attack in Manipur, what happened, there was also an attack on CRPF camp in the same state on Manipur. So I think this much is needed from this news. So NHRC accreditation status faces review in Geneva this week. So what is this? Let's see. The National Human Rights Commission, so NHRC, full form is this, National Human Rights Commission, is preparing to defend the Union government's human rights processes at a meeting in Geneva this week, where a decision on whether India's human rights body will retain its status is expected to be made. So here I think question about the quality of the human rights has been made, whether India will retain its A status. So it's about whether Indian human rights body will retain A status. Let's see. The NHRC's rating were put on hold in 2023 after concerns were raised on its composition procedure, the one who constitute the human rights body. So there were certain concerns were raised on that. The process of police personnel in human rights investigation, the presence of police personnel in human rights investigation, and the lack of gender and minority representation in the committee. So these were basically the concerns. So these were the concerns. The first one was the composition. First one was the composition procedure. Next is there were police personnel in human rights investigation. Third one is lack of gender. Fourth one is minority representation in the committee. So I think rest is not needed. So what is the critical assessment here? The subcommittee on accreditation of Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institution made the following observations. So we'll see the observations. The NHRC has failed to create conditions required to be able to operate independent of government interference. There is government interference. These are the observations. Involvement of police officers in investigation process amount to conflict of interest. So there is investigation, there is involvement of police officers, and that involves a conflict of interest, that amounts to conflict of interest. The committee lacked any member representing India's largest minority religions. So there is lack of participation, or there is lack of minority representation. Next, in brief, what is it talking about? Bhagwat says RSS support. Political news will not be reading. 14 Pakistani held on coast. Narcotic seeds, not important. India Chinese import bill up 2.3 times in 15 years. So this is important. We'll be reading this on page number 10. What else is there? Arvind Singh Lovely quits as Delhi Congress chief. Not important. Political advertisement not needed. So we are done with the first part. We are done with the first part. Front page we have done. We'll be moving on to the editorials now. Okay. So the first one, what does it say? Turnout and troops. Voter turnout has been lower in most states compared to 2019 elections. So recently, these voting process was done. So now the voter turnout, I think the number of voters who appeared at the voter booth, it's lower as compared to 2019 elections. So the last elections were held in 2019, and in 2024 the voter turnout, and this word is very good, so I'll be using purple color. Voter turnout has been lower. Now let's read. Okay. A comparative assessment of polling in the second phase of the general election on Friday. This is not going into specification, but what is the gist we'll be taking out, shows that high turnout, more than 70% in the east and northeast Assam, Manipur, Tripura and West Bengal, and low turnout, less than 60%. In Bihar, Uttar Pradesh have followed earlier trends. So in the eastern states there has been high turnout, and in the northeast states also there has been a high turnout, but in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar it's low turnout. I'll underline it. High turnout where in the east and northeast, and low turnout in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. The turnout seems to be lower in other states, but any parsing of the reasons should wait for comprehensive post-poll surveys. Now when the survey will be done, then only will be much clear about what happened. That said, voter turnout has indeed reduced in comparison to 2019 in the first place as well, compelling the Election Commission of India to look into whether the heat wave condition in many states were responsible. Yeah, so there was lot of, the elections were held in April, and there was lot of heat at that time. So Election Commission, it has forced the Election Commission to think whether the heat wave, that is the summer, was responsible for such low turnout. That could be a factor, but one cannot rule out the notion that voters seem to be less compelled about their choice this time in comparison to 2019. This possibly can be a reason, but it is not the ultimate reason. Let's see. Considering the fact that BJP won a comfortable majority and its highest vote share in 2019 coinciding with the highest voter turnout, So in 2019, there were highest voter turnout, and this party won. A lower turnout could be a sign of worry for it. There was high voter turnout, and this party won the election. Now there is lower turnout. Now let's see, it's a sign of worry for it. Even if conventionally a higher turnout has generally been a message about anti-incumbency in earlier polls before the BJP became the pole of the Indian party system. So what is the meaning of anti-incumbency? Meaning anti-incumbency sentiment in favor of voting out incumbent politician for the specific reason of an incumbent politician. Not clearly. Anti-incumbency. Wait a minute, please. Anti-incumbency refers to the sentiment or tendency among voters to vote against the party or candidate currently in power, often due to dissatisfaction with their performance or policies. Okay, this is a very good term, like a new term. So like I have I'm also maintaining a register in wherein some important words or whatever the news highlights I found to be important, that I'll be noting down. So I think first I'll be noting down anti-incumbency word. It's a new word, nice word. So ये क्या बोल रहा है? Conventionally, a higher voter turnout has generally been a message about anti-incumbency in earlier polls before the BJP became the pole of the Indian party system. Means a higher turnout. So in 2019 elections, BJP party won by a drastic margin. So this means that the earlier government, they were not very much supportive of the earlier government, or they were dissatisfied with the performance of the earlier government. So that is why this party won with a greater majority. So PM Narendra Modi, the linchpin of BJP. I don't know the meaning of this linchpin, but I think some prime member or the leader, path maker, and whose leadership of the party and the union government is marshalled by the party as a key campaigning tool, had taken recourse to coarse communal rhetoric and criticizing the Congress party manifesto. This is what, we won't get in that much into politics. This suggested to pronged ploy to whip up the sentiments of the ardent support base of the party who believe in the Hindutva agenda and to seek higher participation in voting by these sections. We won't go into politics, and to discredit the Congress studied pivot to the agenda of social justice, although it hinged on I think it will become more political now, so we'll cut this much part. It's getting political. So a three-dimensional view of the Israel-Iran crisis world section में होगा. So in March 2028, Benjamin Netanyahu was asked in an interview what the three greatest threats Israel was facing were Iran, responded the Prime Minister. Iran is building an aggressive empire in Middle East. Mr. Netanyahu Israel's long-serving Prime Minister has never minced words about Iran. His opposition to 2015 Iran nuclear deal brokered by Obama administration and unilaterally destroyed by Donald Trump was hardly a secret. He projected himself to both his voters at home and allies abroad as a tough leader who could stand up to Iran threats. Yet it was Mr. Netanyahu's watch that Iran launched a massive barrage of drones and missiles on Israel, the first such attack on the Jewish nation by a state actor in over 3 decades. Iran crossed a lead line when it launched a direct attack on Israel. So it's about that. So the Biden doctrine, I think it's not that important. It will be covered in the newspaper summary given by various institutes. So towards green growth, the RBI must assess the impact of climate change on economic stability. So the RBI must assess the impact, so it is related with environment, climate change and economic stability. So a notable feature of the Reserve Bank latest monetary policy report is the primacy given to extreme weather events and climate shocks affecting not only food inflation but also having a broader impact on the natural rate of interest, thereby influencing the economy's financial stability. So very, very important words. There are many important words here. So the first one is that the extreme weather events and climate shocks, that is the environment. So food inflation, it has affected on the first instance, and then the rate of interest and resulting in economy's financial instability. Natural or neutral rate of interest. Okay, this is like natural also has certain significance here. Natural or neutral rate of interest refers to the central bank's monetary policy lever, which allows it to maintain maximum economic outputs while keeping a check on inflation. Here, natural or neutral rate of interest refers to the central bank's, that's RBI, monetary policy lever, maximum economic output and inflation. Like economic output is also good and inflation is also under control. So the second word which I'll be noting down would be natural or neutral rate of interest. So the report mentions a new Keynesian model that incorporates a physical climate rate damage function being used to estimate the counterfactual macroeconomic impact of climate change vis-a-vis no climate change scenario, like where there is a climate change effect and where there is no climate change effect. We'll compare. The report's author go on to warn that the long-term economic output could be lower by 9% by 2050 in the absence of any climate mitigation policy. That is, if we don't work on our climate problems, so the overall economic output would decline. They ominously add that if inflation hysteresis gets entrenched, it may lead to a de-anchoring of inflation expectations, lead the undermining of the central bank's credibility, would warrant higher rate of interest to curb inflation, leading to greater output loss. Like if there is high inflation, we will consider that our central bank is incredible. That is not credible. Our central bank is not credible enough. That will result in higher interest rate to curb the inflation. Higher interest rate to curb the inflation. Why? What is inflation? Prices are very high. When prices are very high, when the demand is greater than the supply, then the prices become high. So to curb this demand, interest rates will be raised. When the interest will be raised, the loan taken by the public will reduce, and hence in this way they'll be curbing the inflation by curbing the demand. So beginning with its July 2022 discussion paper on climate and sustainable finance, RBI has made incredible progress to address the transition to a green economy, even while admitting that India requires $17 trillion to achieve its net zero emission by 2017. We can use this as a fact in our answer. Its peers in advanced economies, most notably the European Central Bank, have aided the formulation of a green taxonomy for the entire Eurozone economic value chain. A green taxonomy is a framework to assess this is also a definition. We can use this to enhance our answer. Green taxonomy. Green taxonomy is a framework to assess the sustainable credentials and possible ranking of an economic activity. The RBI and the Finance Ministry could take inspiration from the developing world, especially the ASEAN region, where a layered green taxonomy as a living document keeps getting updated with the sectoral view of possible sustainable, with issuance of 16,000 crore worth of sovereign green bonds and expanding the resource pool by allowing foreign FIIs to participate in future green government securities are welcome step. क्या क्या हुआ है? 16,000 करोड़ ऑफ सॉवरेन ग्रीन बॉन्ड्स इशू हुई है, और साथ ही में रिसोर्स पूल बढ़ा है क्योंकि FII का पार्टिसिपेट करना हुआ है, और इससे क्या हुआ है? ग्रीन गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज आर अ वेलकम स्टेप. The RBI must undertake a thoroughgoing assessment of the quantitative qualitative impact on economic financial stability due to climate change. It must encourage administrative consultation to begin populating a layered green taxonomy that is reflective of India's fragmented developmental trajectories. The effort should be to mitigate the transitional risk to the financial system as the economic move towards a sustainable future. Now let's move on to the next one. So here from this we take that the impact of climate change on the economic stability. So the extreme weather conditions, the climate shocks have led to food inflation, natural rate of interest has been impacted, and there is economic instability. We learned about the natural neutral rate of interest, which allows maximum output, keeping check on inflation. Then India requires $17 trillion for its net zero ambitions by 2017. Green taxonomy framework which helps to assess sustainable credentials and economic activity ranking. Green government securities are a welcome step. 16,000 crore sovereign green bonds issued, and FIIs have invested in our market. So inequality can no longer be ignored. Nice. This can be good for our essay. This is political. So let's see. And as an election issue is welcome. The unfairness of some people and a few corporates doing so well while most of the population continues to struggle for decent employment opportunities becoming more and more obvious. The logic of the trickle down and of supporting wealth creators so that more jobs are created and prosperity spreads has failed time and again, not just in India but across the world. So basically it's the trickle down theory, that is the benefits flow down to the lower sections of the society, and that has been like supporting wealth creators for everything that's there. So the futility of continuing, futility means unproductiveness or waste of continuing to depend on economic growth even at the cost of increasing inequality. The futility of continuing to depend on economic growth even at the cost of increasing inequality, that is, when economic growth will rise, inequality will rise. For improving the lives of people, like this is the cost of increasing our economic growth. The futility means it's waste that the economic growth prosper at the cost of increasing inequality. Improving the lives of people is a core political economy question facing countries today. That it is finally becoming an election issue in India must therefore be welcomed, irrespective of what the election outcome in 2024 will be. Like it is linking with politics. This line. So the public discussion, especially on social media platform, has so far been confined to direct redistribution measures of the tax. So what the political parties are now moving towards, because it's election year, so tax the rich, subsidize the poor nature. So this is what they say in all the election program: tax the rich, subsidize the poor. Poor are generally the vote bank for the political parties. So these are very relevant in the Indian context. After all, India not only has a low tax GDP ratio, that is the GDP, when the GDP changes, how much the tax changes, or how much portion of the change in GDP resulted in the change in tax collection. Like if it is less than 1, that means how much amount the GDP has increased, a very small portion to that has been an increase in the tax rate. So compared to other middle income countries, India's tax GDP ratio is 17% compared to 25% of Brazil. So tax GDP ratio is a concept of economics. So India has a low tax GDP ratio, 17%, 25% is of Brazil. India also has a regressive taxation structure. Progressive taxation structure means more your income, more the tax rate. Regressive means more your income, the less the tax rate. While indirect taxes contribute to almost 2/3 of all tax revenues, which is GST. Furthermore, even direct taxes are not very progressive. They are not very progressive, they are regressive in nature. For example, the effective tax rate, tax to profit ratio according to receipt budget was 19.14% for companies that have more than 500 crore profit before tax, compared to an effective tax rate for companies in group of 0 to 1 crore profit. So the one means the one who have 0 to 1 crore of profit, those companies pay 24.82% tax, and the companies which have more than 500 crores of profit, they end up paying 19.14% tax effectively. This is wrong, very bad. So welfare spending is low. On the other hand, spending of welfare in the social sector is very low compared to other countries. Public spending on health, for instance, is still around 1.3% of GDP, whereas the national health policy targets achieving 2.5% of GDP by 2025. So we are at 1.3% are spending on health, whereas what was our target? 2025 तक 2.5% spending होनी चाहिए. Despite COVID-19, we have not seen any such massive increases in health expenditure, and going by the current trend, we will not achieve this target. A number of other major budgetary allocations of the union government, such as MG Narega education budget for children, show a decline as a proportion of the total expenditure or of the GDP. So in some में decline आया है budget allocation में, hence improving revenue mobilization in a progressive manner while also increasing spending on areas that directly affect the lives of the poor is a very much relevant issue and needs to be paid attention. However, addressing inequality is also about questioning the nature of growth itself. In a situation where the major source of livelihood for people is through employment, how far can growth that does not generate jobs contribute to development? That is the major source of livelihood. Like people, when they are employed, they earn. Here we are not referring to someone who is self-employed, I think. In situations, the major source of livelihood for people is through employment. Like someone will employ us and that person will provide us money. How far can growth that does not generate job? Now, in an economy where the job generation is so less, how can it contribute to development? The kind of growth we have experienced recently has been one that has been accompanied by joblessness, as witnessed by declining employment elasticity of output. So joblessness has been there, and there has been declining employment elasticity of output. Further, there is a rise in profit shares and stagnant real wages. Like profit have increased, but wages have not increased. Real wages, I think real wages will be after taking inflation. The discussion therefore has been on generating employment, not distressed self-employment, but decent jobs with adequate remuneration. एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेट करने का बात हुआ है, सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयमेंट को कुछ बुरा नहीं माना है, बट डिसेंट जॉब जिसमें अच्छा रेम्यूनरेशन मिले उसका बात करा है. फॉर दिस वी हैव टू फोकस अटेंशन ऑन मोर इक्विटेबल ग्रोथ where the purchasing power of the people increases. Government play major role. Spending programs, Narega, public PDS, cash transfer schemes, Mahalakshmi, proposed in Congress manifesto can also contribute this. Political, so job creation. At the same time, government contribute directly, creating jobs by filling up all existing vacancy, expanding much needed public service. Social security, the quality of jobs such as Anganwadi workers, accredited social health activities, frontline workers need good wages, improved work condition. These direct jobs create efforts will not only create employment opportunities for many, especially women, contribute to human development outcomes, reduce burden on unpaid care work on women, free them up for other employment, address the inequality in opportunities, intergenerational inequality that gets perpetuated due to unequal access to the services, preschool nutrition, An employment-centered growth pattern will be one where the government policy focuses on supporting small and medium enterprises. So government should support small and medium enterprises because they are more labor intensive in nature, and promoting their skills and overall human capital, which is health and education, along with enabling women to participate in labor market through measures such as maternity entitlements, child care, transportation, safe and affordable accommodation, and so on. It is only when we address the employment issue that we can address inequality in earnest. Like when employment issue problems are solved, then inequality problems will be solved. On the other hand, as long as growth is of the nature where profits for few is the priority, the employment issue is also likely to remain unaddressed. If you will keep the profits of the rich to be the priority, then inequality can never be solved, because employment issue will be taken on the sideline, because we are more focusing on what? Profits of the rich, and that will be the priority. What are the letters to the editor? Delayed relief. Financial matters have always been a bone in contention between center and the state. Unfortunate union government released ITNA towards relief assistance for natural calamity, national disaster response to Tamil Nadu. Only after these states moved to Supreme Court of India, people should not be caught in the silly politics between center and the states. Like only after the state moved towards Supreme Court, then only the union government discharged support for the natural calamity. The move fails to satisfy anyone because the funds have arrived too late. That is the purpose. When any natural calamity comes, like immediate fund should be provided so that there is no greater harm caused. Like the harm caused can be reduced later, but this has not been done. So they arrived too late, and only after the states having approached the top court. That too, after the states have approached the top court, Supreme Court, then only the funds have come. The speed and spirit in which assistance was extended to a favored state in the north is jarring, strengthening the perception of the apathy that the union government has towards non-BJP ruled states. So in these states, it's not ruled by BJP, so this is what happens: delay in providing financial assistance. Such a policy and attitude will impact federal structure, definitely. Federal structure, the center-state relations. It is unfortunate that states affected by natural calamities have had to approach the Supreme Court for release of funds. The objective of disaster is to enable states to overcome a crisis. Definitely, the delay in releasing funds by the center points to a sour, strained relationship with some states. One is really at a loss to fathom as to where scoop the information that the India bloc be voted to power. It plans to have 5 PMs over 5 years. We'll leave this. The next up is opinion making space for migrants in manifesto. It's very difficult to speak so much. I have to take breaks in between for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get energy to speak further. My voice will be quite low because I'm not that much competent of speaking a lot in a day. So next is making space for migrants in manifesto. So manifesto is a document. A public document means anyone can access it, outlining the political vision of a party, intentions, what it intends to achieve, what it promises. So BJP and Congress and both the parties have expressed concerns for the migrants in the manifesto, and it is important. It is happening for the first time for 2024 Lok Sabha elections. So, the COVID pandemic and consequent lockdowns brought attention to migrants and made them visible to the state and policymakers. There are an estimated 600 million internal migrants, oh my god, in India, and they contribute significantly to the economy. Yet they remain highly vulnerable and disenfranchised. In this context, it is important to examine the promises made by the two political parties to effectively include the huge migrant population. So after that, we just only be focusing on that what is election manifesto and what is that. For the first time, they have expressed concern to the migrants, and this has happened because of COVID-19 pandemic brought about this migrants into picture, into highlight. What they have put, we are not reading that. Next is tracking the flow of cash. To tackle bribery, officials need to do more than just seize cash and freebies. क्या किस बारे में देखते हैं? Contesting for assembly elections and Lok Sabha seats from Telangana is becoming costlier with every election. This is evident in the increase in the amount of cash, quantity of liquor and narcotic drugs, and gold and other precious metals that are being seized in the run-up to the election in state. I don't think it's important, like flow of cash and everything. Is there little correlation between higher temperatures and lower turnout? We just read that there was some correlation due to the weather, high temperature, but let's see what this contains. So far, 189 out of 543 constituencies have voted in two phases. In the Lok Sabha elections, we do not have the overall turnouts in phase 1 and 2, as Election Commission of India has not provided updated figures. The number suggests that turnout has fallen somewhat in both the phases. Voter participation, total turnout increase or stayed the same, only 32 of these 189 seats compared to 2019 elections. The rest have seen a decreased turnout. The reasons are not difficult to fathom. In some states, Chhattisgarh and to some extent Karnataka, turnouts increased despite the increase in temperature. Some states like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh decreased despite decrease in temperature in a number of seats. The lack of uniformity in decrease in turnouts corresponding to increase in temperature and vice versa has led to a little correlation in these two variables. In some places there was increase in temperature like Chhattisgarh and Karnataka, but the turnout increased. In Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh there was decrease in temperature but the turnout decreased. So we can say that there is a little correlation. I think this paragraph proves what the topic is. I think this is political. Okay, this is what we have read. editorial opinion also we have done. Next is science. Science is the last page, I guess. Yeah. So anticyclones hanging even now over India link warming to heat. Anticyclones geography. Let's see क्या कह रहा है. I think most of it is covered here only. The record warming of 2023 has so far not been fully explained, since it was much warmer than expected just from the superposition of El Nino on global warming. But the impact of El Nino during its pre-monsoon demise on the IEG tends to produce a stronger and more persistent anticyclone and thus long-lasting and intense heat waves. I think when the gist is given, I only go about reading the gist, because there were times when I read all the entire article, and then when I read the gist, these will be the only points that I've marked important in the entire article, so I'll be just about reading the gist. Anticyclonic circulations were the drivers of unusual rainfall over Odisha. So I have not done geography yet, so I'm not about what's anticyclonic circulations, but they resulted in unusual rainfall over Odisha. An anticyclone has winds moving in a clockwise direction like this. An anticyclonic circulation could also explain the historic Dubai floods. So the background drivers of duration, intensity, frequency of heat waves are helpful to identify the hotspots of heat waves at the time scales relevant to evolution of weather and climate. Like studying the heat waves pattern over the years will help us identify the hotspots of heat waves. The background state of cool seasonal temperatures but strong and persistent anticyclones can help the Indian meteorological department with their prediction and also to build early warning signals. Like meteorological department provides the early signals, predictions. The background state of cool seasonal temperature. They have like cool seasonal temperature, but they are hit by anticyclones. They can help to predict the warning signals. Anticyclones to heat stages of early warning. I don't think it's needed. Combustion of fuel or fire. Combustion means oxygen, in the presence of oxygen, heat, fire generated. This we read in school days. ये क्या है? The old sunken town, Philippines, severe drought, Philippines, settlement submerged, 1970s, has re-emerged. जो समर्ज हो गई थी वो रीएमर्ज हो गई है. रीएमर्ज कैसे हुई है? ये 300 years old ruins है. चर्च है और टूमस्टोन है, because the reservoir water level decreased, so this re-emerged, the settlement re-emerged. The country is facing extreme heat. Drought declarations. Okay. Now I move on to the sports section because ज़्यादा पढ़ना नहीं होता उसमें. IPL चल रहा है. चेन्नई सुपर किंग्स जीत गई है. ज़्यादा नहीं. बाकी Indian men win recurve gold. Tarundeep, Dheeraj, Praveen stunned top-ranked Korea to take the honours in WC stage after 14 years. Deepika claims silver. India downs Singapore to see Uber Cup. Maheshwari wins Olympic quota place in women's skeet. Oh no, not needed. I firmly believe that you are served what you can handle. Not needed. Then world. So this page is left money wise. Then news, election 2024, news, election context, opinion we read, editorial we read, states. I think rest of the news mostly are political. City, let's see. Yeah, world में hands off. Russian officers threatened the West on Sunday with a severe response in the event that frozen Russian assets are confiscated. Promising endless legal challenges. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesman would never see territory seized from Ukraine in exchange for a return of the frozen assets. So the Russian assets have been frozen, and the Russian spokesperson said that Russia would never see territory seized. So Russian assets have been seized. Have been frozen. So Russia is saying that I will not give away the territories of Ukraine. Yemen's Houthi rebels claimed downing US Reaper drone. So Yemen Houthis, they shot a drone sent by US military. So I'll be reading myself and then I will be giving the gist because my throat now is aching. Not इसमें बस यही पता चला कि कुछ फ्रोज़न असेट्स का बात होता है, बाकी तो नहीं इम्पोर्टेंट है. ये जो इज़राइल और पैलेस्टीन ये सब आई थिंक उससे ही पढ़ना चाहिए बिकॉज़ ये डेली अपडेट्स देते हैं न्यूज़पेपर, तो उतना नहीं हो पाएगा. एक होलिस्टिक व्यू यू विल गेट इट फ्रॉम द न्यूज़पेपर कंपाइलेशन. ये हो सकता है यहाँ पे दुबई प्लान्स टू बिल्ड वर्ल्ड्स लार्जेस्ट एयरपोर्ट. नॉट मच नीडेड. ये भी हो गया. सो नीचे से वी हैव कवर्ड then we have key factors that can affect personal loan proposal. The absence of collateral in personal loans increases the credit risk for lender, thereby leading them to exercise a more stringent loan evaluation process. Definitely, if you're like not providing any collateral or providing anything on mortgage, then the lender risk will increase and the lender will be more stringent, that is more strict in evaluating the loan process, like whether I should give loan or not. So what are the things that the lender has to keep in mind while providing a loan? Credit score, repayment capacity, occupation profile, banking relationship, job stability. These points can be written like credit score, whether you are good in repayment of the loan or not, that is repayment capacity only. Occupational profile, is what does the person do? Job stability, whether the job is stable or that's more fluctuating, एक job छोड़ी दूसरी पकड़ी. Banking relationship, good relationship or not. think बाकी तो नहीं पढ़ना चाहिए. All these are political news. Election. This is a nice picture. We read it in the beginning. इसमें यही देखते हैं अपने. सेंटर attempts to soothe Maharashtra onion farmers. So हुआ क्या है? After its move to permit exports of 2,000 tons of white onions from Gujarat amid an extended ban on onion shipment, drew criticism from opposition leader and Maharashtra's onion farmers. The centre seemed to have stepped in to damage control mode with the Consumer Affairs, stating that 99,150 tons of exports have been allowed. I think in Gujarat, the government has allowed to export onions. So there has been ban earlier and now गुजरात में तो अलाउ कर दिया, महाराष्ट्र में नहीं करा तो अपोज कर दिया. not important. ये इम्पोर्टेंट है, ये मैं पढ़ती हूँ. इंडियाज चाइनीज इम्पोर्ट बिल up to 2.3 times in 15 years. So India imports from China crossed $1.1 billion in 23-24 from about 70 billion in 18-19. $31 billion increase हो गए imports, and the country's share of Indian's industrial goods imposed has risen. So China 21 से 30% इम्पोर्ट करती है इंडिया से, और हमारा रुपी मतलब करेंसी फॉर्म में दे रखा है और इनका परसेंटेज फॉर्म में दे रखा है. तो हम मोस्टली चाइना से इम्पोर्ट क्या करते हैं? मशीनरी, केमिकल्स, फार्मास्यूटिकल्स, टेक्सटाइल्स. ट्रेड डेफिसिट कंसर्न्स क्या हैं? ग्रोइंग ट्रेड डेफिसिट विद चाइना मीन्स द इम्पोर्ट्स our imports are greater than our exports is a cause of concern. The think tank said that in its report analyzing India's growing industrial imports from China. India's exports to China have stagnated around 16 billion annually, while imports have surged, exceeding over 6 years. So बस यही बताएगा आगे कि ज़्यादा हो गए. The strategic implication of this dependency are profound, affect not only economic but national security dimension. This is imperative not only to mitigate dependency on single country for its imports. Next is political. So we are left with few more pages. Let's see. Political, not needed. Political. So there is something इसमें बताया है, something known as Global Peace Index. I'll write it in my डायरी. और यहाँ पे है कि आइसलैंड maintained its position as the most peaceful country the 16th consecutive year. और कौन सी हैं? डेनमार्क, आयरलैंड, न्यूजीलैंड, ऑस्ट्रिया या अफगानिस्तान ranks the least peaceful country. India 126th position out of 163 countries. What is peace? Absence of turmoil and cessation of war. दलित्स के लिए क्या है? Injustice. Peace would mean attainment of justice. Dignified life. So Iceland is also the third happiest in the world. So Denmark and Finland. So बोल रहे हैं कि ये पीस एजुकेशन कोर्स को करिकुलम में इंट्रोड्यूस करना चाहिए कि नहीं. Enabling students to become aware of the importance of peace, and its societal impacts, nurturing an appreciation for concepts like peace, human values, democracy, human justice, rights. It is not essential to offer a dedicated peace education course. Instead, it can be integrated in various ways. Textbooks could include engaging, authentic texts centered around themes such as democracy, human rights, inclusivity, diversity, interfaith dialogue, social harmony, when teachers initiate discussions on these subjects. चलो ठीक है. Started from the beginning, right? This is done. This is done. So I think only one page is left now. Let's see from the beginning. Done. This page is left. Then only that page is left. Text and context. Let's see text and context. News in number. Share of women candidates in first two phase of Lok Sabha polls. 8. I think it's 8 only. Percentage only. 235 candidates of the total 283 candidates in the first two phases of Lok Sabha elections were women, with political activists saying it reflects a deeper issue of gender bias and that talks of women's empowerment rings hollow. The rise in market valuation of the six most valued firms. 1.3 in lakh crore. ये नहीं छोड़ो. Amount FPI pulled out from Indian equities in April. The surge in number of phone users while driving in Delhi. Major surge mobile phone usage while driving. Infrastructure projects hit by cost overruns from October to December. The significance of carrier aviation. So, with the success of INS Vikrant important? Why is the success of INS Vikrant important? Who were involved in the development of DMR 249 steel? Is India on its way to get a third aircraft carrier? Why is it important that the country should have a strong naval presence in Indian Ocean region? Just दे रखा है, very good, we'll be reading. So the design work on the indigenous aircraft carrier, later Christian Vikrant, began in 1999. One of the crucial decisions with respect to Vikrant was on warship grade steel, which till then was procured from Russia. After much brainstorming, it was decided that it would be developed and produced in India. So, warship grade steel was first procured from Russia. Now it is developed in India itself. Vikrant can operate on air wing. ये थोड़ी technical terms आ गई. The Navy has already moved a case for a second indigenous aircraft carrier, a repeat Vikrant-like carrier. So I think we are done with the reading the newspaper. It's completed in 1 hour and 25 minutes approx. So we are done with this. Next we'll be moving on to the Indian Express. Explain portion. क्या कहते हैं? How the rupee has strengthened under Modi government. Political आ गया ये तो यार. Global Treaty on Plastic Waste. Microsoft launches PHI 3. What are SLMs and what can they do? Behind the cannibal stereotype, why Biden offered Papua New Guinea. Global Treaty on Plastic Waste. I think यही पढ़ने वाला है. Negotiators and observators from 175 countries including India are currently meeting in Ottawa to thrash out a planet-saving treaty on plastic waste. Here's why the treaty matters and why is it not going to be easy. How plastic enters the human body, farmland, air से और fresh water ocean से. Ingestion we'll take from these three sources. Plastic waste leaks into the environment, especially into the rivers, and gets dumped in the oceans. The waste breaks down into smaller particles and through enters the human body. So यहाँ पे तो 3 चीज़ें इम्पॉर्टेंट हैं. Recycling, you can also talk about the waste pickers and workers. Developing countries, they come to pick up the plastic. Testing certain chemicals in plastic. So I think this much is okay. This one we have done. Political. This also we have read. We read. The foreign portfolio investors sell Indian equities on sustained rise in US bond yield. Here, like read. Yeah, so it's done for the day. In 1 hour and 30 minutes we have completed the newspaper reading. So after many days I have read the newspaper. So I was a bit slow. Now within a week I think I'll be able to develop much more fluency in reading the language. But this is the way that I've found out, like in this sequence the newspaper is completed within 1.5 hours. So I think with time I'll be reducing it to 1 hour. I'll be more familiar with the topics that are in the syllabus, and then accordingly I'll be reading that portion. So hopefully I think I have utilized the newspaper reading time efficiently. Thank you.